Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation. So we are going to talk about the introduction, definition of refugees, term related for refugees, who are the Rohingya people, refugee status determination, the problem faces by the Rohingya refugees in Malaysia. And we also want to talk about the UN Refugee Convention of 1951, the reasons why Malaysia does not ratify the UN Refugee Convention of 1951, and also the conclusion part. So let's get started.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good day to Professor Azizuddin and also all the viewers of our video. So my name is Ibn NAFIS bin Abu ZARAH with the matrix number 275661 with my group mates, which is Nawal, Alia, BINTI, HAZMAN, and also SHARMILADEVI MARIAPPAN will be story and present to you about the Rohingya refugees issues in Malaysia. So before we start our video and presentation today, I would like to pass it to Sharmiladevi to start our group presentation and video.
Good day everyone, I'm Sharmiladevi Marippan. My metric number is 275322. I'm here to explain about the refugees. Before we move on further, let's get to know the definition of refugees. Refugees are the people who flee from their home country to a host country. By the way, there are some good reasons why they are being afraid to be out from their country due to war, persecution, and some political views and social construction. They are also being afraid due to race, religion, nationality. There are some particular concept which is noted in unable and or unwillingly to use the protection of the country due to this fear. Furthermore, in 1951, Vienna Convention, which is known as the main international instrument of refugee law. The convention clearly spells out who are refugee is and the kind of legal protection, other assistance and social rights should be received from the countries who have signed the document. The convention also defines the refugees' obligations to host government and certain categories of people such as criminals who do not qualify for refugees status. Next, let's move on to the terms related towards refugees. Firstly, will be on the refugee settlement. It refers to the process of basic adjustment of life. It is really often in the early stages of transition to the new country, which will be including the securing access of housing, education, healthcare, and so on. Secondly, will be on refugee integration. It's defined as dynamic, which is a long-term process which a newcomer's a full and equal participation in the receiving society. Compared to the general construct of settlement, the refugees integration has a greater focus on social, culture, and structural dimensions. Thirdly will be about the refugee workplace integration. It is understood to be a process in which refugees engage in economic activities which are accumulated with individuals, professional goals and previous qualification and experience, provide economic security and prospect for career advancement. Lastly, about the canvas ceiling, it refers to represents an extreme form of synthetic marginalization that cut across multiple levels and results in an interplay between the complex combination of barriers at those levels. That refugees experience interrelated effects of compound challenges that they must overcome in order to achieve accurately and commensurate employment with prospect. Okay, now apart from knowing the definition and the terms, who are these Rohingya people actually? Let's get to know it. These Rohingya people are the ethnic group of majority to whom of are Muslims, who have lived for centuries in majority Buddhist Myanmar. Currently, there are about 1.1 million Rohingya in Southeast Asia. This Rohingya speaks Rohingya or Rogaina, which is a dialect that is very different from the dialect used in other parts of Myanmar. They are not regarded as one of the countries in 135 official ethnic groups and have been deprived of Myanmar citizenship since 1982, which effectively make them as stateless. This lack of procedural direction could create a situation where political and strategic interests override humanitarian considerations in the RSD process. There are also no fixed interpretation of the elements in the 1951 Refugee Conventions, and countries may interpret them differently. However, in 2013, the UNHCR conducted them in more than 50 countries and co-conducted them parallelly to jointly with governments in another 20 countries. After all of this explanation, I'm sure that all of you will be wondering that how does this Rohingya people become as refugee in Malaysia? Here is the answer for it. To receive a refugee status, a displaced person must go through a refugee status determination called as RSD process, which is conducted by the government of the country of Islam or the UNHCR and is based on international, regional or international law. This RSD can be done on case-by-case basis as well as for whole group of people. There is no any specific method mandated for RSD and it is subject to the overall efficiency of the country's international administrative and judicial system as well as the characteristic of the refugee flow to which the country responds. This may lack of procedural direction could create a situation where political and strategy interests override humanitarian consideration in the RSD process. There are no any fixed interpretation of the elements in 1951 Refugee Convention and countries may interpret them differently. However, in 2013, UNHCR conducted more than 50 countries and co-conducted them parallelly in or jointly with government in another 20 countries.
Hi and Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Nawal Alia binti HAZMAN, entry number 275701, and right now I will talk about the problem faces by Rohingya refugees in Malaysia. So the first problem that they face is about the security dilemma of Rohingya refugees in Malaysia. So refugees in Malaysia have been and continue to be at risk of arrest, detention, extortion and corporal punishment, although the frequency of such incidents has diminished in recent times. Official restrictions prevent refugees from working in the formal sector of the economy, accessing healthcare on the same basis as nationals and attending Malaysian schools. At the moment, there is no existing refugee law in Malaysia or any legal, policy or administrative framework for responding to refugees, which translates into the fact that the government of Malaysia does not provide direct protection or assistance to refugees on its territory. So, the majority of the Rohingya refugees who entered Malaysia after the May 2011 boat crisis was considered as illegal immigrants and were detained for more than a year at the Belantik Immigration Detention Centre in northern Malaysia. The report also explicitly highlights Rohingya families' incident upon reaching the coast and being detained by the Malaysian police, being separated from their families. Rohingya refugees account of the unhygienic and mismanaged condition of the detention centres, which was so overcrowded that detainees had to take turns to lie down to sleep. The report states that nearly every Rohingya refugees interviewed has expressed fear of being detained by the police or other law enforcement authorities. Although Malaysia, having a presence of thousands of Rohingya refugees, has not signed the 1951 Refugee Convention, and hence the Rohingya are deemed illegal immigrants. So the second challenge that they face is they denied from the access of education. There is still no proper school for the community, and the only education that they receive is from unrecognized informal educational facilities run by the NGOs, which is not enough to allow them to further their studies to the university level. Ultimately, most of the Rohingya, even in Malaysia, remain illiterate and contribute to a bleak future. A study made by Julia Palik in 2020 from the Peace Research Institute Oslo about the outcome of the quality of local Rohingya community and at the United Arakan Institute Malaysia, she finds that teachers often lack necessary training, hence the quality of education varies across subjects. Teachers who start working at the school frequently find it difficult to teach refugees and therefore leave. Lack of participation from the parents, both establish parent-teacher association and are committed to organizing regular personal meetings with parents. At the same time, both schools stress that parents rarely show up to these meetings unless some compensation is provided, usually in the form of food or clothing. These are the reasons in the limited access of education among the Rohingya refugees in Malaysia. So the third challenges that they face is about the poverty and precarious employment among the Rohingya refugees. This implies that many refugees in this region do not enjoy any protection from the law, do not possess the legal right to work, and often resort to participation in dirty, dangerous, and demeaning jobs in order to make ends meet. Melati Nunsari found that the income of poverty among Rohingya construction workers in Malaysia is quite high in our country. In 2018, the Malaysian minimum wage was 1,000 per month, which yields a daily wage of as low as 38 ringgit 46 cents per day for workers with a 6-day work week. These wages are significantly less than what locals make in this industry. Even the lowest compensated category of a construction worker, general construction worker, made an average of 67 ringgit per day in 2017, which many specialty made more than 100 ringgit a day. So the job that they had can be categorized as precarious employment. So precarious employment can generally be categorized according to 3 dimensions. Employment security, which includes contractual relation insecurity, contractual temporariness, contractual underemployment, and employment in multiple job sector. Income inadequacy relating to low income levels, lack of rights and protection, which includes lack of unionization, lack of social security, lack of regulatory support, and lack of workplace rights. And the aspects of precarious employment that the Rohingya refugee face are in terms of employment security, insecurity, the late and lack of salary payments in the aspect of lack of rights and protection in the extreme heat when working outdoors, harassment by law enforcement whereby the immigration can detain them whether they hold a UNHCR card or not and take them to detention center. Employees are not responsible for workplace injuries, and another aspect is about income inadequacy, inability to send sufficient remittances home, and inability to pay expenses for yourself and family. So the last challenges is about lack of medical access. Many of the Rohingya babies born in Malaysia are unable to get proper vaccinations because they cannot afford the medical bills for foreigners in Malaysia. The Rohingya refugees' conditions are very unhygienic and the risk of infectious disease spreading is very high. To mitigate this issue, different stakeholders like the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the UNHCR, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, civil societies, and private entities have established a wide range of healthcare services which are mostly free of charge or offered at a much lower price compared to that of public or private facilities. So let's talk about the Refugee Convention. So the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugee, commonly known as the Refugee Convention, is the main international treaty concerning refugee protection. It was adopted in July 1951 and was initially drafted to meet the needs of European refugees in the aftermath of World War II. It applied only to people who had been displaced as a result of events occurring before 1st of January 1951. It was supplemented by the 1967 Protocol relating to the status of refugees, which removed the temporal and geographical limitation of the Refugee Convention, making it applicable to refugees all over the world. Countries that have ratified the protocol agreed to apply the provisions of the convention as well. The 1951 Refugee Convention and 1967 Protocol are international legal instruments that countries voluntarily agree to bound by. Through an act of ratification or accession, countries become a party to a treaty. The treaty obligations do not necessarily become part of domestic law.
Okay, so let's move on to the part of why did Malaysia does not ratify the UN Refugees Convention 1951 and the 1967 Protocol. I would like to tell you guys the two reasons or factors why Malaysia did not ratify it. Okay, so the first one, which is Malaysia do not have any law regarding the refugees. Okay, so in Malaysia currently there is no law related with refugees allocated by the Malaysian government. In the perspective of international law, the only law exists for refugees is the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees, together with the 1967 Protocol relating to the status of refugees. In the perspective of United Nations High Commission of Refugees, which is the UNHCR, Malaysia is not the party, one of the party to the 1951 Convention, nor its 1967 Protocol, and does not have any asylum system regulating the status and rights of refugees. The absence of a legal framework on asylum issues is a source of great unpredictability in the lives of refugees in the country. Malaysian law makes no distinction between the refugees and also the undocumented migrants. Refugees are vulnerable to be arrested for immigration offences. The 1951 Convention and the 1967 Protocol is by far the most complete piece of standalone refugee law in the world. Okay, so albeit the fact that Malaysia is not contracting country in the international law regime and thus have no legal obligation to be bound by it. Okay, in view of that, a refugee shall be bound by Section 6 of the Immigration Act 1959/63, the Act of 155, which states that no person other than a citizen shall enter Malaysia unless he is in possession of a valid entry permit on which his name is endorsed or a valid pass lawfully issued to him to enter Malaysia. All undocumented persons in Malaysia are legally considered as illegal immigrants. Okay, based on the Immigration Act itself, provides the police and immigration the authorities with widespread powers to arrest, detain, and eventually deport those considered as illegal immigrants. Persons arrested can be detained in detention camps for such periods as deemed necessary by the authorities to arrange for their removal and also deportation to the new places, either in Malaysia or outside the Malaysia, or maybe in the new country. Okay, so to the second factors, which is Malaysian government required to treat refugees better than the citizens. Malaysia government did not ratify both the convention and protocols because when Malaysia ratifies both of it, Malaysia should give the refugees same opportunity as the citizens that embodied as stated in the 1951 convention together with the 1967 protocol. Because during this pandemic, Malaysia should consider about to ratify this convention and also the protocol, because Malaysia should consider the people first, because currently there is so much lag among the people in terms of economy, poverty, unemployment rate, and so on. And as we can see during this pandemic, most of the Malaysian citizens having economic problem, and our employment rate rocketing up due to the pandemic. Whenever Malaysia ratified the convention and protocols, Malaysia had to provide the refugees employment, the same wages, minimum wages as the Malaysian, and also we must provide the refugees education, same as the Malaysian itself. Okay, So currently there is a conflict between treating our own people and treating those refugees, but nevertheless we have never shirked away from our duties and obligations, because as we can see, the Malaysian government help the refugees with the cooperation with the UNHCR in many terms, but still the Malaysian government should focus and put their people first during this current pandemic, because the pandemic give us a very big impact, and Malaysia currently still treats the refugees fairly compared to other countries, despite Malaysia not signing the convention, neither the protocol. Move on to the conclusion part. So we agree to the current status of the Rohingya refugees in Malaysia. So based on our topic, our group mates, which is Nawal and also Sharmila and also me, we agree to the current status of the Rohingya refugees in Malaysia, because even though Malaysia did not ratify the convention and protocol, still the Rohingya refugees get a better life here if they hold the UNHCR card. It is because whoever hold the UNHCR card will be provided with assistance for refugees in a variety of areas, including healthcare, education, financial support for vulnerable individuals, shelter, counseling, and other welfare needs. Second, they are provided by the outreach and community development support to the refugee communities. Third, carry out the detention, monitoring, and intervention. Fourth, they are provided with the legal representation in court for offences under the Immigration Act. Fifth, they are carried out advocacy, capacity building, training with the refugees, government, media, and the civil society partners. Six, they are mobilized resources including corporate and public fundraising. Seventh, support durable solutions for refugees, including resettlement to the countries comprising, among others, such as the United States of America, Australia, Canada, Denmark, New Zealand, Sweden, and also the Czech Republic. The UNHCR also promotes or provides legal and physical protection and minimizes the threat of violence, which many refugees are subjected to, even in countries of asylum. As part of its humanitarian support for refugees, UNHCR cooperates with various partners, including government agencies, donor countries, non-governmental organizations in Malaysia, and also the volunteers. So that's all from us. Thank you.